Karibu Nyumbani family. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that your relocation journey is on target and that you have been continuously starting to make the necessary moves, even if it's just spiritually and strategically. There's a lot of videos we've done here just to prepare you. We've also, shared a few videos by other diasporans who have relocated successfully, and they're kind of sharing just the daily life so you can get a feel of what it would look like to live in certain countries. And I got a question the other day about personal security. How safe is Africa? Because we always hear it's so unsafe, it's so this, it's so that. And one of the things I would say is that, Africa, like many countries in Africa, are like Babylon, where if you're in a big city, you're going to have to use the same wisdom that you would use in Chicago in Nairobi, for example. There's good neighborhoods, there's bad neighborhoods, there's dangerous neighborhoods. The central business district can get a bit tricky. You have to watch your phone. I mean, just the natural things that happen in big cities. But I wanted to talk today about how do you protect yourself? How do you ensure your personal security? First of all, beloveds, and a lot of people have actually thanked me for this, who successfully relocated in 2021. Please try and establish some kind of network before you get there, either professionally, either with diasporans who have relocated. Reach out, either through something that you enjoy, yoga, cooking, whatever. There's so many, art club, there's so many things, or certain social groups, maybe you love live music or something like that. Try and get a network before you get there or as soon as you land. You can even ask your, Uber driver or your taxi driver to give you, where do people like me hang out? You know what I mean? It's ask them like that. Because it's funny because a lot of Uber drivers in Nairobi used to think, and this is not an Uber ad, by the way, taxi drivers in Nairobi used to think I was Black American. So they'd always be like, on Thursdays, your people meet here or whatever. So try and establish that network as soon as possible, because that is going to become like your library of information. They will be your go-to people to ask which neighborhoods are safe, which neighborhoods are unsafe, where should you limit yourself to when you're moving around at night, etc., etc. The second thing I would do is either get yourself a driver, or when you first get there, maybe you'll use these mobile apps. There's even some local ones in different countries, which offer the same service as some other, So what you could do is you could look for, because a lot of these people, it's their personal taxis or whatever. You could look for a driver who you resonate with. Although these apps, like, I swear, they should pay me for this. These public apps are really good for, for security, for tracking, etc., etc. But I think it's always so good to, in time, get a driver who you could talk to. So maybe you want to go downtown Nairobi to see what it's like or whatever. You could go with them. Then they could even park their car and walk around with you and enable you to do a few things, etc., etc. Because what you'll find is, like, a lot of African countries are a bit classist, especially because in your relocation journey, you'll probably end up in a major city first before you transition out of that to smaller towns, which is what I highly recommend. Otherwise, it's just like you're moving from one Babylon to another. So you'll find that it's really good to have that local person who you can move around with, who you can go around with, etc., etc. And if you're going to a neighborhood that you don't recognize, beloveds, don't wear anything too tight. I know I'm going to sound so old school. Don't wear anything too tight. Don't really wear anything too flashy. Keep it really simple, very simple purse. Make sure you have your phone on you. Make sure you have all those carry-on bags where, as women, where you can keep everything in front of you. Men, also be very careful with your wallets. Keep everything in the front, and just use the same discernment that you'd use if you went to a ghetto, for example, if any of you have been. So that's basically the thing about personal security. Now, at night, it's advisable, beloveds, to move with a taxi, preferably a taxi from a well-known company or from a taxi that you know, as you wait to get you to, to get your car. And they would usually let you know, oh, don't go to this neighborhood at night. If you suggest something, they'll be like, I don't think you should go there or whatever. But that's the challenge, as I was saying earlier. In many African countries, is like when you're thinking of your security, you might end up finding yourself in like a bit of a classist situation, where you're hanging out with like rich black folk who are almost like rich Mzungus, the only difference is this, but who are a bit out of touch with what's really going on. And that's one thing that a lot of people have contacted me about, how it's hard to find awakened people in various African countries. Some have even asked me if there's communities, even returning Kenyans, if there's any kind of community of people who just think outside of this mainstream media box. So, that's the challenge of moving in these big cities, is you do become restricted. But I would highly recommend, it's so easy to blend when you're like this. I would highly recommend that you explore the city, you explore different people, because you'll find that across Africa, the poorer people are, the nicer they are. The less material things they have, the nicer they are. And that spirit of corruption, greed, crime is really mainly in the major cities. Like in the villages, it's really not there. Unless people target you for a specific reason, it's really, because it's a whole different kind of social system where everyone knows everyone and everyone knows you're always, it's like everyone lives in a kind of fishbowl, beloveds. And you may need to get, if you're in a city, of course, you may need to get security. I would highly recommend, I think I did a show on this. Let me know if you'd like me to expand on this. I would highly recommend that you get a company security, because sometimes a lot of these men who come and say, their securities at night, etc., they may end up setting you up. And of course, remember, for your personal security, don't give away your address. Don't post too much lavish this and lavish that. Try and keep your enjoyment of the country separate from where you're living. Make it a bit more, anonymous, so people can't track you, etc., etc. I hope this was helpful. Don't forget, you can always email me or message me on Patreon to ask me to cover any kind of issue, question that you'd like me to cover. All the best with your relocation journey. Tuko pamoja. Wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up. Wake up. But those are definitely stories. But those are definitely stories. But those are definitely stories. But those are definitely stories for other days. Wake up, Africa! Due to public demand, beloveds, we really want to start this new stories for other days. Now, we were thinking of whether we should, have an entire separate channel for it. But for now, we'll just put it on this channel. So definitely, beloveds, stories for other days has been something that we've been saying for so long. And so many of you have requested that we start this segment. So we're definitely, finally, it's happening. And we'd really appreciate it if you could share what kind of topics you would like us to cover first. We really want this to be family driven, beloveds. We really want you guys to be the ones, where we're covering the most pertinent information to you that is relevant to you. So you can also email me if you don't want to comment about it, Dr. Mumbi at drmumbishow.com, where, if there's any topics. And we're going to basically be starting that. Now, another thing that we're going to be starting is going live. It's something that we've been feeling so urged to do, but I'm a very reserved person, even though it may not seem it. And, being live, beloveds, it does take a lot of energy just because of all the different dynamics. But I definitely believe it will do more good than quote unquote harm. So we will definitely be starting the Dr. Mumbi live very, very soon. And we'll be letting you know when that goes live. So make sure you subscribe, family. Make sure you subscribe. Let us know what you'd like to see on Stories for Other Days. And thank you for your continuous support. And I want to take this opportunity to give a special thank you to everyone that has kept us in their prayers, that has been called by the Most High to pray for us throughout the years, beloveds, because, ever since day one, as I've always said, we're not here for the likes, we're here for the revolution. And the message is, it's not so much about transferring a message to another person. That is very powerful, but it has always been about throwing those darts into the enemy's camp and, weakening the enemy, because the enemy, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so it's all about, the consciousness that they try and manipulate, the way they try and manipulate things. And so if you can just create cracks to their said philosophies and all that, that helps the great spiritual war that we're on in a massive, massive way. But so many of you have emailed me, have called me. Special shout out to my staff as well, both on my farm and, who work for me behind the scenes, who have been praying for me ceaselessly, especially in 2021. I appreciate, love you so much, beloveds. It has worked as a serious shield of protection, which brings me to the last, the third thing that we're going to be adding, which is a story time. We're going to start doing story times and just sharing a bit of our story, as we wind down that book, as we wind down that life. It's like we need closure, beloveds. We need to write the conclusion. And what I've found in sharing things about toxic families and how many of us were spiritually married to our parents at a young age, or we were sold out, or all those things, I've noticed that there were so many similarities in our stories, and there is so much power when someone shares their story, because you realize, there's so many parallels, because we're all fighting the same principalities and the same spirits. So when I share my story, which is a very vulnerable thing to do, I really hope that it will, enrich and enliven and kind of help you to understand and understand some of the things that you went through in your own life, as we release the past, because, beloveds, there's a bright new future waiting for us. Wake up, Africa!